Order.
At least 100 police vehicles.
This is the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting Tuesday, May 11th at 9 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do we have Pastor Sanchez in the room? Pastor Sanchez, are you here? Okay. Did I see? We got a line? Is Pastor Sanchez in line?
Pastor Sanchez, also Pastor Flag.
Well, would you ask if Pastor Sanchez is out there, and if not, would you ask Carl to come in and say the prayer?
Okay, sure. And don't forget, you already made the stranger. Okay. All right, thank you. Public safety and public works. Pastor Sanchez.
Yeah, they're on the assumption that apparently they can't use all of it.
I didn't know if you wanted to hang on to or if you wanted me to. This is the one that includes the FH.
Good. I'll hang on to him. Thank you.
Larry, you have an issue with your county email or no?
I don't think so, Commissioner. I didn't get a chance to check it till this morning from yesterday. But
Thursday was down, and then something happened. It went down the other day for a brief moment. I called Bob up yesterday, but
See if Pastor,
Excuse me.
see if Pastor Sanchez will have asked Carl if he doesn't show up here to do it. He said yes.
well, get him in here because we're ready to get going. Okay.
He's still got people lined up trying to get in.
Okay. Well, we're just going to go forward.
Get started. So
Yeah, let's just get forward. All right, we're going to call our meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the Reverend Carl Flagg from Mount Tabor Church and the chaplain with the Sheriff's Department, if you don't mind, to come up and lead us in prayer this morning. And Commissioner Pickens will do our pledge, so all rise if you're able to do that. Thank you. And thank you, Carl.
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, we come before you with humility and simplicity. We thank you, Lord, for this another day which we have never experienced. We pray, Lord, for your grace, your mercy, your peace, and your love. Lord, we ask you to lead and guide our county leaders in all of their discussions and deliberations. Dear Heavenly Father, where we are weak, make us strong. Where we are down, lift us up. And help us, dear God, to work together, play together, pray together, and stay together. Help us, dear God, to run the race with patience and lay aside every weight and every sin which does so easily beset us. Lord, meet us at our point of need. And where we have deficits, God, give us the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding, and the cooperative spirits that we may rise up and do your will. Bless our county, bless our community, bless our state, nation, and world, and help all of us to be in your presence long enough to be transformed into new creatures. Bless this meeting today. Bless all of those who will come before this commission, and help all of us to gain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in all that we do. This is your servant's prayer. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Flagg, thank you. And this is a new day that we've never experienced before. So let's make it a productive day. and I appreciate that at the last moment there. And Commissioner Pickens, thank you. Gentlemen, we have the next item is approval of the minutes. There is a correction on the April 13th, 2021. It should be BOCC workshop meeting, so the chair will entertain a motion as amended.
Move approval.
Thank you. We get proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. All in favor? Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. We're going to recess our Board of County Commission meeting, go to our 9:05 Port Authority meeting, and we'll convene our Port Authority meeting. Gentlemen, the first item of business is to approve the minutes as stated in the agenda.
So moved.
Proper motion by Commissioner Rawls, proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. This is a portion of our time for public comment on a Port Authority items only. Is there any comments on Port Authority items from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll move into general discussion. Commissioners, is there any general discussion on Port Authority items? And seeing none, we'll close that part of our meeting, our Port Authority, and go into presentations. Our first presentation, we'll reconvene the Board of County Commission meeting, go into presentation. Our first presentation is Public Works, National Public Works Week, Proclamation 2021-031. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Turner, would you read that?
Be happy to, sir.
And if Public Works, if you would gather down here, meet me around the podium. I guess it's all the people in the yellow shirts, and wonderful.
Ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, whenever you're ready to get started.
Whereas Public Works, I'll back up, resolution number 2021-031, National Public Works Week Proclamation, May 16th through the 23rd, 2021, Stronger Together. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and the services that are vital importance to sustainable and resistant communities, and to the public health, quality, and of life and well-being of the people of Putnam County. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of the public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for the citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Putnam County, Florida, to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now resolved that Chairman Larry Harvey does hereby designate the week, May 16th, through the 22nd, 2021, as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Done, ordered, and adopted this 11th day of May 2021. Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Got a second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Commissioners, we're appreciative of this recognition today. We have a great group of professionals here who really put forth their best for this county. A few things I'd like to note that you all are aware of that the general public may not be aware of. We have roughly 3 departments represented here today: Road and Bridge, Utilities, and Engineering. Road and Bridge, they maintain over 1,000 miles of dirt roads in this county, over 700 miles of paved roads, and roughly 50 bridges. And that's a tremendous amount of work for the resources we have. They do a fantastic job keeping this county moving forward. We have had our challenges, and we've diligently responded and have overcome in that area of focus. We also have a utilities department that's represented here today. They have over 1,000 customers they service. They have roughly three water plants and 3 sewer plants that they maintain throughout the county. And we also have engineering here. As you all are pretty familiar with, we have typically 30 to 40 active projects going at all times. And that, in fact, today we're in receipt of a $1.5 million grant from St. John's River Management District that's being done in another county right now that we're receiving. So, great group here. Thank you again for the recognition.
Good, thank you. Thank you. If y'all will come up and get a picture, we're going to stand behind you up here. Thank you. Y'all gonna have to tighten up somehow.
Short people in front. You won't be seeing me with a big guy in front of me.
A lot of yellow going on.
Take the guy
Mr. Suck, are you in the picture?
He's down front, right?
Okay.
Commissioners, can you go this way a little bit, please? Commissioner, there you go.
This guy's taller than I am, even when I'm up here. Okay.
Nickname is Shorty.
Over the short one right here, real quick.
Which one would that be?
Yes.
Yay, Sarah. And now Jim.
Okay, if you'll look up here to me, 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. Let me just make sure it looks good. It does, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all for everything.
Robert says, this is all of us. There's not much getting done today.
Thank you, Public Works. We really appreciate all the work y'all do, and believe me, I know it's a tough job. We all do. Our next presentation is from the VFW, Mr. Gerald Donnelly. If you would come up, the annual awards, and I'll let you call up the people that you want to honor today. And thank you for doing that from the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everybody. Welcome.
Good morning.
Veterans of Foreign War Post 3349 would like to thank the County Commissioners for letting us honor our Fireman EMT Policeman of the Year. To present these plaques and awards, Gerald Schuller and Bruce Howe will handle the ceremony.
First, let me say it's always such a pleasure to honor our public servants, and it never gets old, year after year, to be able to give out these service awards for these outstanding individuals that we're going to recognize today. We do have 4 awards to give out. Our first award will be to Charles Pinkston, EMT, and Hank Sherlock, fireman. Their awards come from the same item, so I'm going to read what they've done here. On the night of 9/20/2020, they responded to a structure fire around 2300 hours. Rescue 84 was the first arriving unit and reported that a shed was on fire. The crew was preparing to make entry, and upon opening the door, found a victim. They removed the victim from the building and rapidly took him to the ambulance. He required immediate assistance, and the helicopter that was en route was canceled, and they transported this victim to Shands Hospital in Gainesville. At this point, this would like to give Charles Pinkston and Hank Sherlock the recognition for their life-saving role with this patient. So both members did an excellent job, and the victim was transported safely. So our first award, Charles Pinkston. Yes, if you'd come forward, please. I have tied to the microphone. I hate that sometimes. A special recognition of exemplary service to humanity by administering emergency medical assistance. We'd like to give you this certificate and plaque for Putnam County Medic of the Year. Thank you, sir. Singleton picture.
Wrong family.
Hey, I was just trying to marry mom, that's my bad.
There we go. Now we got the important people up here.
That's right.
Our certificate of appreciation to Hank Sherlock and special recognition for alertness, personnel courage, and efficient guardianship of life and property. Thank you so much, Mr. Sherlock. Get the family in. By all means. Absolutely.
I heard the clicking, sorry. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say something real quick?
Yes.
When,
If we could, Rawls would like to say a word.
I just want to say, you know, when I saw him up there with his family, what goes to my mind is how much of a sacrifice they make away from their families as well. I think that needs to be noted by the community, that there is a sacrifice made every time these guys put the uniform on and leave their families for 1 or 2 days at a time, because it does take away from a lot of special times to them. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very much. Yeah.
That's true of all of our public servants in our emergency situations. At any time, and anywhere, at any hour of the night,
That's right.
24/7. Deputy Brian Smith, if you'd come forward. Now this award for Policeman of the Year, as Corrections Deputy Brian Smith, hired by the Putnam County Sheriff's Office in February of 2019, and later on in that year of September 11th, 2019, while working as part of his assigned duties, prevented an attempted suicide by an inmate in a holding cell, and due to his quick actions, was able to save the inmate's life. Along that, later on in the year of 2020, with some medical problems, he still continued to work at the jail, where as a precaution, he did move to an administration position. In August, when he did return to the county jail and working, he noticed something in the perimeter fencing of the jail and talked to the facilities manager, who confirmed there was a weak point that could have posed a potential security risk. The issue was immediately fixed due to Deputy Smith's attentiveness. Deputy Smith has been working on his law enforcement certification, and COVID prevented him from finishing the academy. It's his goal to finish this in 2021 and become a patrol deputy. He also aspires to join the underwater search and recovery team in the near future. And gentlemen, that's what I call the indefatigable spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the true spirits that we have with our public servants today, that they just continue to persevere under all circumstances. So, Mr. Smith, in grateful recognition of unyielding adherence to the highest ideals of law enforcement in maintaining, prescribing, and protecting the lawful rights of all citizens, we'd like to present to you the Certificate of Appreciation and this Corrections Deputy of the Year Award. Thank you very much. Our final award will go to Battalion Chief Tina Hitchcock, if you'd come forward. And when I first looked at this award, I said, we're going to give her a Battalion Chief of the Year award. How many battalion chiefs do we have? Okay. So you're head and shoulders. But this one, I kind of, as I read the readout, I'm like, this is one for sustained excellence, is how I read this. Over the past several years, our department has been struggling to stay here and not leave for bigger counties for more attractive salary. This has made hiring new employees an ongoing challenge. Ms. Hitchcock has taken on this responsibility and has a few dedicated people that assist, but at the end of the day, it is her that ties it all together. After years of hiring and training new employees, just to watch them leave shortly thereafter. Her hard work and dedication is now paying off, and we're close to being fully staffed for our department, and people are proud to work for Putnam County. She has done a great job at selecting applicants that will be a good fit with the service and try to get them with a compatible partner that can assist in the new employee training. Our county is going through several changes that are having a positive effect on everyone, so the process of hiring 20 to 30 people a year just to have them leave should soon be a thing of the past. She's done all this while also working as an interim battalion chief and being in charge of a shift. And as I said, sustained excellence. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you put in. And we have this nice little shiny plaque that you can hang on your wall now. Say, I'm the Battalion Chief of the Year.
Can I make a quick comment on Mrs. Hitchcock? She was our EMT of the year about 2 or 3 years ago, and now she's been promoted to battalion chief. I think that's a great accomplishment for this young lady. Again, I want to thank all the people for the COVID, for the time they gave, and for the lives they've saved over the last year and a half.
And we want to thank you, VFW, for recognizing our employees. They do a good job under extreme circumstances. And everyone that won an award today, you're very valued. Those of you that didn't win an award, you're valued also. But we greatly appreciate everything you do for the citizens of Putnam County. And VFW, thank you for recognizing that. And you're always welcome to give awards here in this chamber. So thank you for attending today. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our agenda. Next is our presentation from Elizabeth Payne with the Northeast Florida Regional Council. So, might take a few minutes for them to clear out, but that's okay. That'll give you some time.
See if I can make this technology work.
Ms. Payne, welcome to Putnam County.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You're
so
welcome.
That's a hard act to follow, though, so I will do my best.
You'll have to speak right into the microphone,
Sure, is that better?
a little bit.
All right, again, my name is Beth Payne, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Northeast Florida Regional Council. And here with me is Sean LaHave. He is our Resiliency Coordinator, and more importantly, he's the Putnam County Liaison for our staff. So we have a staff assignment for each of our member counties. That person will attend your meetings and understand what's going on in the county, and that helps us as staff in the Regional Council help you all better during the year. I wanted to give you a brief update of what we have going on in the council. I think it's important for you all to understand some of our work and where we're going. We certainly value the participation of Commissioner Harvey as our incoming president for the coming year, and Commissioner Rawls and the role that they play. and we're happy to have them on our board. Just a quick reminder, we are one of 10 regional planning councils in the state of Florida. This is important because it allows us to advocate at a statewide level for our regions and for our counties, and we can get a lot of things done with our state agencies as they work through 10 councils for 67 counties. We were formed in 1977 by Interlocal, so we've been around for many years and done a lot of great work over those years and grown and changed as the state has changed. We are also included in Florida statute that assists us in getting a lot of our work done across the state. Real quickly, we have a 35-member board, which can be cumbersome at times, but really brings us a diverse set of perspectives from across our very diverse region. So we do value that, that group of people, local elected officials, as I mentioned, gubernatorial appointees, and members from our state agencies. As mentioned, Commissioner Harvey will take the helm of presidency in October at the change of our fiscal year, and currently our president is Mayor Sean Lynch from the town of Baldwin. Our mission is what you might expect for a regional agency. We do a lot of convening and collaborating and bringing together people who can help solve problems in the region. You know, real quickly, our budget's about $3 million. That fluctuates each year, with county dues making up a little less than 20% of our budget. And most importantly is the staff that we have. There's a staff of 13. So I like to say they're small but mighty. We can really get a lot done with the staff that we have. And it's a really phenomenal group of people that we have working at the council and for you right now. A few key program areas I want to cover to help you understand the work that we do, and towards the end, how it's all coming together as a result of the pandemic. Emergency preparedness is our largest budget items of programs. We have the Healthcare Coalition. That's a federal program that is passed through the state of Florida directly to us. We maintain 3 healthcare coalitions in the state of Florida that represents 18 counties. And this is really disaster preparedness for the healthcare sector. As you can see by the little pie chart, we have a variety of members making up really the entire healthcare sector. Over 700 members with 500 organizations belong to those coalitions across those 18 counties. We have done some really interesting projects over the years. Stop the Bleed is our key project that we began with. We distributed 5,000 Stop the Bleed kits. So those are those tourniquets that bystanders can use to prevent a bleeding incident. Almost 200 to Putnam counties for your school districts. We also provided training on those kits for your school district members. One of the other things we do is we provide funding. We provide dollars to our members in order to help them close their gaps and improve their capabilities for resilience in the healthcare community. We've given out over $600,000 and funded over 57 projects. Most recently in Putnam, $14,000 for your Department of Health for bariatric recliners for your shelters. Also $4,000 to help purchase air cleaning units for your shelters. So certainly some direct benefit goes to your counties. We also help our healthcare facilities check their boxes for planning, training, and exercises. They all have requirements to meet their Joint Commission and different certifications, so we provide those services free to them. It's free to be a member of the coalition in order to help them meet their needs. We also staff the local emergency planning committee. That's really focused on hazardous materials. It's also made up of a board of directors. You have 2 folks from Putnam County who sit on that LEPC. And this really provides direct training to your first responders here in Putnam County, many of which were recognized just now. You can kind of see on the list the types of courses that we hold and the number of participants from Putnam County that we've trained. These are direct training dollars. We don't take any administration fees. We don't do any of that. It's really a direct value to our citizens here in Northeast Florida. And we do a variety of other things. You know, I've talked about training and exercise. We are the statewide program manager of the regional evacuation study. So just this year, we've gotten updated storm surge information, worked with your emergency management staff on updated evacuation zones. Currently in the process of kind of tabulating all the numbers and the clearance times and your vulnerable population. So this is really the study that provides your emergency management staff data to then relay it to you all who get to make the hard decisions when it comes time for evacuation in your county. So look forward to that for the new hurricane season. Planning and policy work is also important to us. This is maybe what we're known for historically over the years, and we were in statute for a long time to manage growth management and developments of regional impact. That's changed many years ago, and as such, regional councils have changed, but we still do provide valuable services in this regard. We staff the Transportation Disadvantage Program for all 7 now of our counties in Northeast Florida. Commissioner Adamczak is currently the chair of the LCB, and our staff does a phenomenal job in managing that program. That goes along with a FTA, Federal Transit Administration HOPE grant that was recently received in partnership with Putnam County, really to investigate this very specific issue of microtransit for the citizens of Palatka and trying to getting them to work. So really kind of some interesting ideas that have come out of that grant, and really looking forward to that. We do a lot of things in hopes that they can serve as best practices across our region, and this is certainly the beginning of one, we believe. We also provide valuable local government technical assistance for comprehensive plan issues and different growth management and public engagement projects. We do this mainly for our smaller municipalities. Those are towns, Putnam County has quite a few, who don't have the budgets to have planners on staff. So we do this for our small communities. We are the town contract planners for Interlochen and Pomona Park. And we're currently working on a technical assistance grant for your small municipalities in order to meet the statutory requirements for their comprehensive plan. So that work is ongoing. So I'm happy to help, and that's kind of our niche of growth management in the region. And of course, we have to talk about resiliency. That really is something that is become more, I'm not going to say important because it's always been important, but it's certainly in the lexicon and the everyday language of local government staff, certainly of our state legislators. We see the value of that after the session has just ended, and to our governor. We have been working on resilience in Northeast Florida for many years. We started back in 2013 after it was recognized as being important when we did a reality check exercise with Legos and how we could grow and change in the future, and that was something that was recognized. So Northeast Florida Regional Council took that on, really focusing on sea level rise, and we did so with private business, as local government wasn't quite in the position at that point to move that forward. Then came kind of the educational component. This is really less important these days because it is so discussed and talked about, this idea of resiliency, but we certainly started off this idea of community resilient services, in which, talking to almost anyone who would listen, local governments, Rotary clubs. I know we have come to Putnam and done that. So that kind of service. And to continue education, we created an online, what we call exposure tool, which allows citizens and businesses to kind of put in their address and have a better understanding of their vulnerabilities and their exposure to hazards. So all of these things kind of building awareness and understanding of what resiliency is and what it can be in Northeast Florida. We've done technical assistance. That's one of the things that we really work with. Sean is here, and he'll speak in a minute about some of our ongoing work, but really kind of where we're needed and where we can add value. It's what we do. Things from, we have a lot of military work, working with the Army Corps of Engineers, NAS Mayport. Some of our other municipalities across the region have asked for our assistance, so we meet people where they need us. This leads, maybe surprisingly, to economic development. We do a lot of economic development work, and we do so because we are designated by the U.S. Economic Development Administration as your economic development district. What this really means is that we get funding to check the boxes that are needed for our counties to apply for Economic Development Administration grants. This has been historical. We've done this for many years, but it's really important right now as EDA, like many other organizations, got a fair amount of CARES Act money and, in turn, the American Rescue Plan money as well. So it's really important that we continue this, outreach, and let you know that these things are available, and we'll continue that conversation in the coming months about those opportunities that are moving forward. We use something called REMI, which is an economic forecasting software. We do this for our member local governments. This is really an economic impact forecast that can help you as a county understand what development projects could bring to the county. So that's things like increased population, spillover jobs on other things that can be brought to the county as a result of a new development, and your increase in GDP to the county. We do this for a lot of our member local governments. This is a free service that we do. And again, it's the idea of giving you all as decision makers additional information as you make your decisions in the county. We have used this same software to do COVID-19 impact reports. We've had 2 iterations to kind of understand how the pandemic has affected Northeast Florida, calling out each county as well. And we have a 3rd edition that's underway, hopefully to be presented at our June board meeting. So oddly enough, resiliency and economic development together have led to this concept of economic resilience. And so that's why I have Sean here, and I'm going to let him cover a few items of interest that we've been working on.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. How are you guys today?
Wonderful, thank you.
Doing well. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'd like to specifically highlight a recent effort that's been underway at the Northeast Florida Regional Council to prepare the region for economic resilience and respond to economic impacts caused by COVID-19. So back in August 2020, the Northeast Florida Regional Council received federal CARES Act funding from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to respond to economic impacts caused by COVID. And so in utilizing this funding, the Northeast Florida Regional Council established the Northeast Florida Economic Resilience Task Force to identify policy recommendations that can help local governments and communities in Northeast Florida ensure a successful recovery ahead. And so in front of you, there's a membership list of all of the individuals who have dedicated their time, expertise, and knowledge to this planning process. I'd like to give special recognition to Commissioner Rawls for being a dedicated member of the Northeast Florida Economic Resilience Task Force. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to recognize Mr. Jonathan Griffith from the city of Palatka, who is also serving as a member of the task force. So starting in August, we established context and look at all of the impacts that were happening on the ground in each county across Northeast Florida, including in Putnam County. And then once we established context, we identified priority areas of concern that we could assess. And so the priority areas that were identified included infrastructure, support and relief for small businesses, and equity. And so in looking at all 3 of those from a holistic framework, we ultimately developed a Northeast Florida COVID-19 economic recovery plan that was approved by the Regional Council Board of Directors last Thursday. So just to provide a little bit of context before we get into the plan itself, if you'd like to learn more about the task force, its charge, and access previous meetings, you can head to nefrc.org/taskforce. And so here today we are presenting the Northeast Florida COVID-19 Economic Recovery Plan. This is a 40-page document that outlines individual policy recommendations in each of those 3 areas. And our objective moving into the summer is to create an implementation matrix so we can assess what policy recommendations are specific to each county. So for Putnam County, we will look at this plan and see how we can work together in collaboration to advance these priorities. And from a very brief perspective, we will provide this plan to you sometime in June. You will receive a physical copy. But I just wanted to highlight a few of the areas of concern that were assessed. And so within the context of infrastructure, one of the big priorities that we identified was the issue of broadband access, especially through COVID-19, with remote working structures, telehealth, et cetera. We want to ensure as a region that broadband is expanded and that everyone has access to affordable broadband. So there's policy mechanisms in here that can help the region move forward in identifying how to tackle that issue. And then there's some other issues as well, really specific to rural communities especially. We want to look at how we can help rural communities modernize infrastructure and really look into creating best-in-class infrastructure investments. And then in terms of small business relief, this was a very interesting section, especially for counties like Putnam. So one of the issue areas of concern that were identified included expanding small business support services that are heavily concentrated in places like Jacksonville and expanding those services to rural counties like Baker County, Putnam County, et cetera. And so during one of the presentations, the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce expressed an interest in expanding their in-house services all the way even to the Panhandle, but we want to ensure that within Northeast Florida, we can tap into those resources, especially for our rural communities. And then there's some other ones as well, such as expanding public-private partnerships between governments and private corporations to help out those in need. And then identifying scalable best practices and working with entities like the Small Business Development Center to translate those practices. And finally, on a closing note, if there's anything that we learned throughout COVID-19, it's that our essential workers and vulnerable populations, especially the elderly, et cetera, have gone through a lot during the past year and a half. And so one of the main components of the equity section is to bolster and expand mental health resources across Northeast Florida. There's obviously a demand for it, and through the Healthcare Coalition that Ms. Payne mentioned earlier, and other entities working across Northeast Florida, there are a lot of opportunities to bolster mental health resources and to support people in need. And then other components, just closing this out, include protecting essential workers in vulnerable sectors, making sure that those who need supplies such as PPE have what they need, and then ensuring that all have access to affordable housing. Especially in neighboring counties, what we're seeing all across the state of Florida, people are moving here, left and right, housing markets are exploding, and so we need to ensure that there are opportunities for workforce housing, et cetera, and we'd like to assist local governments in identifying the most appropriate solutions that will work for your communities. So if you have any questions or if you'd like to follow up with me afterwards, you can reach me at slahav@nefrc.org. And on a final note, I'd just like to mention that moving into the summer, we are going to begin a plan implementation strategy where we will be working with media outlets and press in individual counties like the Palatka Daily News. We're going to be giving presentations to elected commissions, Rotary clubs, civic organizations, and policy groups. And then we are going to start working on this implementation matrix to bring this stuff to life. So really appreciate being here today. It's always a pleasure to be in Putnam County, and I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Payne to close out this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, go right
I want to thank you for including the word affordable when it comes to internet. That's a word that I've been banging on for this subject from the beginning, first time I heard about it, first as I talk about it. That's very important because accessibility is there, affordability is what's not there. There's differing opinions of how you achieve affordability. I don't believe in going with one provider, but I think competition is what's going to drive affordability. I couldn't read the little word, so hopefully we get a copy of this so I can read the details. But I love the idea that you're using the word affordable when it comes to internet, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
John, I just want to thank you for your service in this task force, because you really did a great job keeping everybody focused, getting the topics of discussion. One of the things that we did talk about was substance abuse and mental health, especially in the rural areas. And I was not able to make the meeting Thursday because our email was down for some reason, but I hope that makes it into the final product, because that, in Putnam County, that's very important to us. And I think regionally, especially coming out of COVID, all statistics show that there's an increase, not a decrease. So I really thank you for what you've done and look forward to continue to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Payne?
So in closing, I'm hoping that you see that what we have seen over this last year is that we have been looking at these kind of what we thought and have worked on these programs that seemingly were disparate and didn't have a lot of overlap. Suddenly, the idea of emergency preparedness, economic development, and resiliency all make a lot of sense together. And it's really driven the mission of the council to focus on this idea of community resilience, recognizing that it is not just disaster preparedness and not just economic development, but it's how all these things come together to form a resilient community. The regional council is lucky in the fact that we are agile in the work that we can do, in our funding sources, and having members like Putnam County who help to service those kinds of programs. So, listed here is the idea that all of these things come together to make community resilient. So, Commissioner Rawls, you'll notice that mental health and opioid issues are certainly on that list. We certainly have a focus on that, and we'll be reaching out to you shortly to discuss kind of our next steps and how we move forward. But we do really look forward in kind of furthering all of these issues and working with our partners. And I like to end with this slide and recognizing that while our individual efforts a lot of of times can make a difference in our local communities. What we're working is for this power of collaboration that can really move our region forward and allow us to assist in that voice and in making Northeast Florida the best place it can be. So I encourage you to use us as a resource. That's what we're here for. We are here to meet your needs in Putnam County, projects, programs, ideas. That's what the council is here for. We're here to make you successful. So that's what makes us successful. So happy to answer any questions, hear any comments, or always happy to hear from you
Thank you, Ms.
anytime.
Payne. Any questions? I do want to say, I know when you saw we had that kind of the homeless mental health thing going on here, you kind of called me and said, I can be a part of that. And we kind of challenged Commissioner Rawls, and Mr. Suggs was working on putting the summit together on mental health. You wanted to be a part, so we appreciate that opportunity. And we do see value in the regional planning and the regional council. I almost said planning, I'm sorry, but it's the regional council. And it's really good to see an organization such as yourself who morphs into what the community really needs than just be one thing fits all, because it doesn't work that way. And although we have a lot of things similar in other counties, we are unique. And we appreciate your spirit and willingness to help move Putnam County forward. Commissioner Rawls, you have a statement?
I just like to say, when I first got asked to be part of the council, Beth came down and met with me to do my orientation, and I was not a believer, to be honest with you. And I said this at one of the board meetings. I'm really impressed with what the council's been able to do. I have had concerns over the years prior to getting on, and because of prior leadership of the council, with what the value proposition was for the taxpayers. But I really believe that we get a lot of bang for our buck, and I just thank you for your leadership and what you'll do for us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down.
Oh,
We
you're
hope
welcome.
you stick around Putnam for the day. It's a beautiful place to enjoy. Don't need to rush back to Jacksonville.
Watch the traffic on 17 and 19.
The drive down here was a great start to my day. I
Good,
cannot.
good. We look forward to it, and you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you very
So thank you
much.
very much. Gentlemen, we're going to take a 3-minute recess before we go into our number 5. So we'll be back. It's 9:50, and we're going to call our meeting back to order. And we appreciate the little break there. This is a spot in our agenda that we do public comments on agenda items. We do ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes on agenda items and stick to that item. There will be another section for miscellaneous items for the public to comment on anything you require at that time. But at this point, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on items on the agenda? Now, I know we got one back here. We'll get to you when we get to that item at that time. But is there anybody else that would like to speak on public comments on the agenda items? Okay, seeing no one rushing to the podium, we'll close that portion of our meeting and go into consent agenda items. Commissioner Rawls, is there anything you'd like to pull?
I believe it's item D.
Item B?
D is in Delta.
D is in Delta, okay. Commissioner Pickens,
Since he's pulling that, I have none.
okay. Commissioner Adamzak? I'm sorry?
Charlie, Echo, and Foxtrot.
Charlie Echo Foxtrot.
Phonetic alphabet, good for you.
Not my first time.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner?
None that haven't already been called, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none. The chair will entertain a motion on the remaining items that have not been pulled.
So moved.
Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve items A, B, G, H, and I.
A proper motion by Commissioner Rawls.
Second.
Proper second by Commissioner Adamzak. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it. And we'll go into the, Commissioner Rawls, you pulled the first item, so we'll go into item D.
It looked to me like that needed action by us individually.
It
and
does.
To give direction.
It does. Okay, why don't you, Julianne, would you bring us up to speed publicly so the public knows what's going on?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman. As directed by the board, staff put the properties out for bid in our typical venue. When we opened the bids, we had one particular property with 2 bidders who bid the exact same dollar amount. And so obviously, we don't have a written provision as to how we're going to break the tie. We did consult with legal counsel, who advised one recommended action would be to take the bid that came in chronologically first as timestamped. And/or also advised by legal counsel is we could pull this all together and put just this one particular property back out for bid and allow them to attempt to bid on it again. Other suggestions, obviously, the board can take action as they see appropriate.
Ms. Julianne, I had a question for you, though, during that. Do we have a provision in our procurement bid process that listed that if there was a tie, the first one would come into, it would be done by the first bid received? So,
No, sir.
but we might want to do that going into the future.
Sure we can.
So we'll discuss that amongst ourselves. I just wanted to ask that
Sir.
question. So, Mr. Rawls, you had your light on first, sir?
Well, to that point, I was going to say, I don't think in this case it would be appropriate to do that. I would be in favor of adding that language in. That would resolve this in perpetuity. I personally would have no problem with y'all flipping a coin. I think it just extends everything, and it's probably fairer to the 2 bidders because then you get into a bidding war that's started because of something that we didn't have in our policy. So I'd be in favor of flipping a coin or extending it for 7 more days and putting it for rebid, but I think flipping a coin is more appropriate.
Mr. Adamzak?
I'm going to keep my comment on this very simple. The methodology is the reason for this failure. We need to use a different methodology when we do these sales, in my opinion, and that's why I pulled item C. So I'll talk about that then. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Turner?
This could be a very important issue to one of these 2 bidders. I don't see what the harm would be in to do it, reopening the closed silent bid for another week and letting them have another shot. They might not bid on it again because that's as much as they were willing to go. They might bid $10, they might bid $200, I don't know. But I think that in fairness, they both submitted a tie bid. It's not gonna hurt us to give them a week and say, if you would like to have another sealed silent bid at doing this again, you're welcome to turn in another bid on this. It's up to you.
So I think I would like to go with that, but I absolutely would like to see language put in here to prevent this kind of thing in the future. And I don't believe it should be a coin flip. I think the timestamp thing is a great idea. If there's a tie bid, open it up for 7 additional days for silent bids, not a live auction, a silent bid. Either I'd go for any of them, but I think there needs to be more than just a coin flip over something that could be important to somebody.
Mr. Turner, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So are you saying that we should only allow the 2 bidders to rebid?
That's all, yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
The two people that turned in the bid that tied are the only ones that get the bid, and it's a silent bid again. They can turn in another one or not for 7 days.
Okay. Mr. Pickens, you have the floor.
Yeah, and I agree this needs to be addressed, you know, in the language so it doesn't happen again. But I agree that I think it should go out to, you know, whatever time period, 7 more days for those 2 individuals that bid to allow for another silent bid. That's the way I feel it needs to go.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. Mr. Adamczak.
The only reason why I object to this idea is because I don't feel this particular sale was properly put out to the public. It was not shared on Facebook. It was not shared on Twitter. None of the things that when I talked to staff that said was going to happen occurred. I had 3 people interested in several of these properties, and I never got the email saying when it was going to happen. I looked at the page daily and never saw an obvious place where the sale was occurring. So that's my only thing. So I think it should be put out to everybody, and I think the whole sale should be re-put out, so.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rawls?
I just asked Mr. Commando if we could put it out for those 2 folks only. He said no. So I think, Commissioner Adams, I think we just throw it out and put it back out. And add the language, in the event of a tie, the first one timestamped in prevails.
So when you talk about throwing it out, you're just talking about this one particular
Well,
one?
we're basically putting it back out for bid because.
On these one particular item?
On this is one, yes, because
Yes,
he's saying
okay.
that we can't have just those 2 people bidding on it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Mr. Turner?
So Rich, you're saying that we can flip a damn coin, but we can't put it back out to bid and let the 2 settle it?
No, sir, I didn't say that. Actually, what I would suggest is the analysis on not accepting the timestamp, which I'm fine with, that same analysis should apply to any of the other suggestions going forward. Is we didn't give the public notice of whatever methodology we were going to employ in the event that there was a tie. So understanding that, my advice would be to reject the bids for that one property and then just put it back out with added instruction to staff as to how you'd like to see the process occur.
Only to the 2 or?
And keep in mind,
No,
Commissioners,
open it to I mean, you start from ground zero on it.
keep in mind that staff is doing the work that the Commissioners have asked for to be done.
I don't think this is a big deal. I think it's an opportunity to learn.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion on how to go about item D.
I'm not.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
If
Go right
I'm
ahead,
not
Mr.
ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman, yet, if I could, I'd like to talk to Rich just a
Please go
tad
right
more
ahead.
about this if I could. So you're saying in your legal opinion, we shouldn't just let the 2 people, or we can't just let the 2 people that were tie bidders give them 7 days to bid or not bid again?
I don't believe so, sir, because I believe what happens is, at that point, we're creating a process going forward, which we hadn't given the public notice of. So in the spirit of fairness, to me, what should happen is you reject all bids, you open it back up to everyone with added direction on if this happens in the future, what you'd
On
like
that
to-
one item?
Just on that one item.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we reject that bid on that particular item and open it back up for silent bids again and alert the public that there will be a process for a tiebreaker of a timestamp. Whoever turns in the earliest bid for a tie bid will win.
Second.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion on this matter, Mr. Pickens?
Okay, will that be worded in the bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that the first one in,
If
the
there's
first
a
highest
tie-
wins.
If there's a tie, then the tiebreaker will be decided by the timestamp of the bid received.
And that's on all bids from.
Well, we're going to get to that in a
For all,
minute.
if the
Let's-
board directs,
Well,
we can do
let's-
whatever.
With this,
Well, let's deal with this one
Yes, sir.
first, and then we'll come back to deal with all of them
Sure.
at that time. So we have a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like signs. The ayes have it. Mr. Turner?
Yes, following Mr. Adams' our Commissioner Adams' concerns, do we need to expand on our advertisement on these items or whatever? I think that was the biggest thing, was the advertisements. Do we need to maybe try that to be part of our social media PIO type thing, or I feel certain that we did what was required by law, but I think my concern, and I'm assuming his, is that maybe we need to take one step further and do the social media type thing along with it to increase awareness.
Sure, just some background, Chairman, if you'll allow.
Will?
We can advertise however the board desires us to do it. The board's previous direction to us was to do a host of several things. We take out an advertisement in the Pulaski Daily News for each bid, which cost us roughly $800 to $1,000 to run that. It has all the properties listed, their parcels, that type of thing, and all the bid information. We have a running list of any individual who's requested to be notified if we do a real property bid, and we email them out. We put it on VendorLink, which is a national database. We put it on our own General Services bid webpage, which we've told our bidders they can have. And we also put signs in the yard of every property that's being bid. Now, I've been told by neighbors, I watched my neighbor remove a sign, so we don't check them every day of the bid, but they are there every single time. We are happy to add any venue that the board would like us to add going forward for real property. We just need consensus from you all.
I think this conversation kind of got ahead of the horse real quick, but we'll get there. I appreciate the explanation. Mr. Adamsack?
This commissioner asked for that request to be emailed and did not get it. So to me, that actually invalidates from my personal citizenship the whole bidding process, if you're saying that's the process, because I was not notified via email. Now, I did not provide that in writing, but I did sit in your office 2 times and asked to be emailed when this was put out.
Okay. Mr. Adamsack, you have the floor on item C now.
Yes.
So go ahead and explain your position on that, sir.
So I think part of the problem we have is the process of a sealed bid allows for this, especially since we didn't have the idea of a tie. That's just one item. But we spent $800 to $1,000 on putting this out in the paper. Had we hired an auctioneer company at 10%, which is the going rate, it would have been around $2,600, and they would have put it out in a lot more advertising venues, including AuctionZip, and depending on who we hired, their own website where they have followers all over the state and all over the county. To continue to keep going where we only have 11 to 12 people participating in an auction is ridiculous to me, and I don't believe it's putting the best interest of us or the citizens at hand, or citizens and neighbors who wish to have the property. The other advantage of an auctioneer company coming, Camden Auction just did one out in West Putnam. There were signs all over West Putnam for where that property was, what's going to be. This is what these people do for a living. So I just think we need to reconsider our methodology and maybe bring in outside help, and allow staff also to focus on some other things.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls, you have the floor.
I just have a question. So are we spending between $800 and $1,000 per item?
No,
or
sir.
the whole auction lists everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Every time we do a property bid, we
So it
spend
lists 3 or
roughly
4 properties if you're
$1,000.
bidding all through. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just had, my concern was going to be if we're spending $1,000.
Yeah.
Right, no, yes, sir.
We're actually going backwards when you
Yeah.
consider staff time.
We're not
so-
going backward. Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
I don't really have a problem going with a live auction environment if that's what we want to do, and we could actually have the auctioneer put his commission on as a premium where we get all the money and he adds his commission to it. It happens every day in auctions, and so I'm not,
It's a buyer's fee.
yeah, buyer's premium, right. So I really don't have a problem either way, whatever the commissioners want to do, and I'm sure staff doesn't either. We would just contact an auction company like we would an engineer and get RFQs for the thing or whatever, and then pick one of them, and they would be our auctioneer for that period of time or whatever. And so I don't really have a problem going either way with this. I truly don't. The auctioneer in most cases, if you use an auction company like Commissioner Adams Act says, they will definitely do more advertising than what we're doing. We're advertising that we're having an auction, all the legals, we're doing everything by the book and a little bit, but we're not really advertising, hey, we got a sale, you want a piece of property, come buy it. We're not doing that. So, yeah, I could go see either way or go either way, but I think there's definitely validity to maybe for future auctions to maybe have a one-day live auction and turn it over to a real auctioneer company, real estate auction company. One last thing, I think we need to, before we make this decision, we need to actually reach out to them, because I don't know that you're gonna find a real estate auction company that's gonna be interested in a 10% buyer's premium on $28,000. I just don't know. So it's not like we're selling $1 million worth of real estate or $100,000 in real estate. We're selling $28,000 in real estate. Buyer's premium at 10% would be $2,800. If he or she's got much expense involved at all, that's not gonna pay their cost. So I think we need to reach out to one of them and maybe discuss some of that kind of stuff, and then we may need to continue like we're going, because I sure don't want to continue owning these properties in the county.
I agree. Mr. Adamsack.
Yeah, so I mean, part of the reason it's only 28,000, I think, is due to the methodology, but that's my opinion. We won't know until we try another venue. I absolutely support that, and that if we could go to pursuing a live auction, and even if we had a means that the county could do a live auction, I would be acceptable to that, and I'd be more than willing to help with that. But I think there is some licensing things and with auctioneers that would probably preclude us from doing that which is why I'm not an auctioneer in Florida, because there's licensing restrictions. So I'm all for that, and I don't know if I don't know that we can make that decision here on item C, but in a workshop, and maybe if in that workshop you guys can bring us some options. I know the mayor of Willaca has an auction license, Camden does, there's a few others in Putnam County and the surrounding counties that do as well. So maybe those are some of the people you could pursue.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Mr. Turner?
My only concern is if we start trying to do it ourselves, we're defeating the purpose for doing it in the first place, which is getting people who are connected in the industry to advertise to their list of people that they always advertise to. So just getting a local licensed auctioneer to come perform this, I don't think is gonna solve our problem. So, you know, Mr. Chairman, I would request by consensus the board, if we all agree to let Ms. Young look into that, or have Desiree look into it or whatever, and see what it would take, and if we can move forward on these lower priced properties with an auction, and maybe it's not responsible. So maybe she could look into that and report back to us before we get the next set of properties on the way, but continue with the one we just put back out.
Okay, so by consensus, well, why don't we go ahead and do this real quick, and then we'll get back to that. We have item C, so we've had discussion on that. What's the board's pleasure on item C, and we're going to
I have a
come.
question. Are E and F covered in the discussion that we just had?
No, we're going to we're going to do them one at a time. So the chair will entertain a motion on item C.
I move that we approve item C.
Okay, proper motion by Commissioner Turner. We have a second. Proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion, Mr. Adamsack?
I am only going to vote no on this because I personally was not notified via email on the fact that sale was going to occur.
Chairman,
Mr.
I'm sorry, I
Ms.
did have
Julian?
Desiree look up. We do have a confirmation email that went out to Commissioner Adamsack, so I'll have IT look in to see if we have an email problem.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We have
I've had problems with email over the past week.
we have a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Now, by consensus, Ms. Young, or Mr. Suggs, we're going to ask you to reach out and go ahead and start looking at the availability of using an auction house for this event, changing the language in there that in case of a tie, there will be a stamp date. The first stamp date will break a tie. But I have a question for Mr. Commando. Mr. Commando, does this meet Florida statute, or do we still need to advertise on our website? And I'm a little concerned about going to every social media network. I know Mr. Adamsack mentioned Twitter. I don't do Twitter. I think we need to be very careful in what we choose. So I think our Facebook page, our county website. But if we go with an auction, do we still have to use the other sites that we normally use?
Yes, there's still the advertisements that have to happen in the paper
Okay,
and
so we'll
such.
still have a cost associated outside of just going to an auction house. Okay, all right, that answers my question. Mr. Rawls?
If the auction house takes on that responsibility, do we still have to pay ourselves, or is that part of the deal?
I don't know, I would imagine that might be something that we have as part of the conversation and entering into a contract with them.
'Cause one of the properties in here was almost $28,000 in itself, and if we
Right.
had gotten more than 10% in that bid, we got about 10%, you know, if they were able to get 20 or 30%, that would cover all the costs we're talking about, and then some, and that would obviously enrich them as well. So I think the proof is gonna be in the pudding. You know, we just gotta give it a try and see what happens, but if the onus is on them, take that off the staff, it frees them up to do other things and not have to focus. And this isn't minutia, but it's minutia.
My only concern is, before I turn it over to Mr. Turner, is the fact that having the auction house responsible to meet our public notice requirements, I think that we could still do our own with our Facebook, with our BOCC website, and with our Plaquemine Daily News. Because if they miss it, then we could be in trouble at that point.
Bring up the cost, though.
Mr. Turner? Yes.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman. I'm not in favor of a private entity taking on the public rights for advertisement.
Thank you. All right, good. But so by consensus, Mr. Rawls, you have the floor.
It's not taking on public right. It's, we have a responsibility, and we can abdicate a responsibility to them, and make sure that they follow through, obviously. That's just a matter of, you know, we do it every day with contractors of all sorts. We give them a scope of work and we hold them accountable. I personally don't see why we would want to, if they're going to pay to advertise it and then we turn around and pay to advertise it, we're basically wasting the taxpayer's dollar at that point. I don't know, what is the requirements for notification advertisement?
Mr. Chairman, aren't we gonna discuss this later
we're gonna-
during the
let's-
workshop, or do we need to have a 2-hour
I think
discussion
that,
on it today?
no, I think what we can do, if it's okay, Mr. Rawls.
I'm here for the party, so
Let's,
whatever.
yeah, thank
I
you, and
understand
we're having
y'all
a great,
for the party.
why don't we, you know what we need to get done, Mr. Suggs, Ms. Julianne.
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
know what we need. Bring it back to us at that time with those requirements, and then the party can really begin at that point. So,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. The next item is item E. Mr. Adamczak, you pulled that item, sir.
Yeah, so I simply pulled this item just to recognize the idea that we did a great job, staff did a great job of putting this out and getting several bidders on it. And it's really the same thing in item F as well. Appreciate that we got some input from multiple resources and that we're doing it right on this one. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Adamczak. Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve item E.
Item E. Okay, I have a proper
Second.
motion, proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion on item E? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Adamczak, you still have the floor on item G, sir.
So
F.
this one I'll take.
F.
Yeah, F. So this one I'll take a little bit further. This is an example of where our procurement process, where we put out to multiple bidders, and we had several bidders that bid on different sections of the project, came back with a lower bid on different sections, and the overall project is gonna be done by multiple bidders on the project, and is gonna overall save the taxpayers money as well as the county. So I really appreciate that process worked in this one, and thank you again to staff for doing that.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Adamczak. Mr. Turner?
I had a question, and I presented it the other day, but in all fairness, I just haven't had time to get back and get my answers so for that, I apologize. But I asked Ms. Young, could she check with the bidders and find out would they take Phase 1 and Phase 2 not being the same bidder? Because in the construction world, a lot of time they put some of their cost in the other phase, and that's why they're cheaper in the previous phase. And so, were you able to reach out and ask them that question?
Yes, sir, we were. We have confirmation from both vendors. As we did explain when we talked briefly, it is explicitly stated in the bid document. It's explicitly explained in the pre-bid meeting. And we do have confirmation from both DB Civil as well as Superior that they are agreeing to be awarded one of the two phases.
Okay, good. So we're good.
Yes, sir, we're good.
All right, thank you for checking on that
Yes, sir.
for me.
Thank you. And the chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve item F on our consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Adamsack.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And we do appreciate, I tell you, I go back to when I started and we were lumping things together. And Mr. Adamsack, that was my question then, are we getting the best price for what we were looking at? And now that we're splitting things up, we're even doing that with our roads. We're getting multiple vendors in there. It has to help our economy when we see that. It's a good thing for Putnam County. Mr. Rawls?
I brought up to Mr. Troxel and staff the other day, there was a bid put out for culvert pipes while we're having this conversation. And I was a little frustrated because on county roads, it kept referring to DOT specifications. And, you know, I said, I thought we made it clear that, you know, if there was an opportunity for us to not do this, but there was 110 pages in this bid document. And only about 3 or 4, if it was emailed to all of us, and I read all 110 pages, and I told Mr. Troxel, I said, I'm going to charge you 30% overhead just for having to read 110 pages because you know that there's a lot of detail in there, and the devil's in the detail, and you're going to get cremated. So it's understandable why we are paying so much money because we put so much effort into bearing these documents in minutia. Anybody with half a brain is going to say, I'm not going to lose money on this. I'm going to charge 2 or 3 times. But if I remember correctly, only one culvert touched the state road, but everything had DOT spec and requirement on it. And I just think that's something we should talk about in the future, maybe at a future workshop, taking a look at these smaller projects again, and especially on culvert replacement.
I happen to agree, so bring that up at another workshop. Mr. Turner?
This is another one of those items I totally agree on. We've talked about this for many, many years now about that we don't always need DOT specifications if it's not a DOT project. I mean, it got pretty heated the first year or two in some of those workshops about we don't need DOT specifications if it's not a DOT project, if there's a specification that is adequate. Okay, so I think we should pursue this further to another step, and we need to try to get as much DOT stuff that's not necessary. I'm not saying we wipe out all DOT stuff. I'm saying that we don't use it if it's not necessary, because it definitely raises the prices. Like Commissioner Rawls said, sometimes 2 to 3 to even 4 times the price of what a culvert would cost without a DOT stamp on it or without that approval, but it's made by the same person. It's made by the same, it's shot off the same assembly line. It just has the stamp on it. And because that stamp's on it, it makes it cost multiple times the price. So I think we need to try, if we can, to identify those items, get the DOT stuff out of it when it's not a DOT project or being paid for by DOT. Be a considerable savings, considerable. Thank you.
Thank you, and I agree. All right, going on to item 7, our Planning and Development Services Codes Enforcement Fine Reduction, case number 2016-00300.
Mr. Chairman, before he gets started, I wanted to have this little discussion about, in general, because I didn't want it to sound like I was on a particular case item, and so.
You'll give us just a moment?
Some of these, I actually want to talk.
Oh, okay, okay.
Some of these were pretty high, and I realize it was way before your time or whatever. But what can we do to where we, in the future, don't have a $250,000 and a $307,000 claim on a piece of property? Do we have to just foreclose? Is that the only way to turn this off, compliance or foreclosure?
Well, this case was opened in 2003, and they were charging $50 a day in fines. Now we only do 25. It's your decision if we want to lower daily fines.
Would you have any way of knowing at the present time how many of these we have lingering around that's running on from back in the 2000s that people have just forgot of or wrote the property off until somebody else moves in and said, well, I'll try to fix that property because I know they're reducing fines now, which is what we want. Compliance, and we're not in it for the money, compliance and costs. And so, any idea knowing how many more of these are hanging around out there?
Not right now, sir. I mean, we've been trying to work through the old ones and get them resolved.
Okay, is there any way that we could, at some point when, I don't want to say when you have time, because nobody ever has time, they're too busy, but if we could look into it some to see if we can determine about how many of these are lingering out there that we need to either, if they're never gonna fix them, there's no need in us just running a code case on them forever. Maybe that we need to actually foreclose on the property, especially if it's a rat trap or a shack or whatever that's out of compliance, maybe we need to go ahead and abate that property and try to get our abatement costs back out of it. But it's not doing the county any good for a property to just continue running to $250,000 to $350,000. It's not getting it clean. That's the whole point of this, is getting it clean.
Yes, sir.
So I'm wondering if we could maybe try to determine how many of these are hanging around. Maybe we need to just foreclose, abate them, and sell them with that cost in mind.
We could go through the cases. We have to do it manually, and the new computer system, when we get that running, that's gonna help us also.
Well, we've been taking all these property sales, and we've actually been using that money, or supposedly we're gonna use that money to do some abatement and do some things, to make it better. I don't know that we've actually done any of that. I don't know that we've abated anything yet, even though we took the sales proceeds from all the excess property sales in this deal and set it aside for that deal. But I don't know that we've ever done it. So maybe we need to identify some of them and take some of that money we've been setting aside for 2 years and actually abate some projects.
Well, I think if I may say, Mr. Turner, they tried to do some abatements. The prices came back high. They had to go back out, and they looked at another vendor that could lump a bunch of them together to get a lower price. So
Yes, sir.
that's what I understood about a month ago. Is that how yeah?
Yes, sir. I have 3 of them out right now, and then I've got one that he lumped them together, so the prices went down.
Well, I think the conversation, before I turn it over to Mr. Adams, are you done, Mr. Turner?
I am now, I guess.
You can finish up if you like.
I'm fine, sir.
But I do agree with Mr. Turner. I think that we run these prices up so high that people just get scared off and they go, I can't. Let them have it one day when they're ready to do it. Maybe there's a time frame that and I hope you bring a recommendation to us at a workshop, is where I'm going with this, but possibly when the fine on a $50,000 home reaches 100, we're going to stop this faucet from turning, because no one's going to care at that point, because we get up to 200,000 on something that's not worth anything.
Correct.
It's just, we run people off.
Right.
And when we talk about compliance is all we want and the neighborhood wants, but they're still looking at that place
Right.
going, hey, if that was down to 1,000, I'd probably do something with it. But being at 250, I ain't getting near that stupid thing.
Well,
So
we have really made some progress in this arena in the last
We
couple
have.
of years. I mean, we meant for it to do exactly what it's doing, hoping it would bring properties into compliance, and it's really working. But I think we're gonna have to start looking in the future at a two-pronged approach, the same one we're using now, along with adding on properties that we just think are gonna never clean up until we do something about it. We need to try to identify them, especially if there's a $300,000 lien on them now that we can wipe out, but we can abate the property, turn around, sell it. That'll get it back on the tax rolls, because I wouldn't think that anybody that owns a property with a $300,000 lien on it is even paying taxes on it anymore. So it's probably not even getting a tax certificate on it or anything in some cases.
I agree. Mr. Adamczak, you have the floor.
I guess
sir.
I just have a question, and this goes back to the auction process kind of. But if they go into the auction and there is a piece that needs to be abated, don't we waive the fees that are on there when it's auctioned, and then they have 90 days to come in compliance if they buy one? I thought that was my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Julianne?
For the achievements, yes, but those come back in front of the board for individual approvals because there are liens against those properties that the Board of County Commissioners has to make those decisions.
So if we had, let's say, property A has $100,000 worth of fines on it, and then we decide to foreclose and take that in, and then we decide to sell it in this auction, whether we do, however the methodology of the auction is, does that 100,000 go away or no? Or can we put that in the process that it goes away? And what I'm looking at is I'm looking
Usually
at
does.
the potential that we could put it out for auction first and not abate it, and then that person has 90 days to abate it.
Yeah, we've done that multiple times
Right.
already, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was the case. So I mean, I would suggest that we set a time frame for the amount of years or cost, like Mr. Turner's saying, and then put it out to auction after we foreclose, and then abate if it, no sales, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Turner, and then we're gonna,
My only deal is that if we're gonna take a piece of property from anybody for any reason that we go abate it, I'm adamantly
I agree with that.
opposed to us repossessing somebody's property and then not doing anything with it, and so we own it, that it ain't been abated. That ain't right.
That's not right.
You know, so if we're gonna take it, we need to go fix it.
So I guess what I'm.
Mr. Adams,
oh,
go ahead.
I guess what I'm saying is we would take it and we'd make it available to the public, and then they have 90 days to abate it. So it would get abated, and then we would abate if it.
Yeah, we've done that multiple times, yeah.
Mr. Ross?
So
I agree.
what I'm hearing is that if we put it for auction, we have a condition of auction, is that they abate the issue.
That's right.
Okay. I would have no problem with that. Then we don't have to pay.
We do it now. That's in the deal now. If there's a codes case on any property that we sell, they got 90 days to bring it into compliance, or we take it back.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, excuse me here, I'm fixing to be out. See there, that means I'm wrong.
Real quick, what I'm saying is if we take a property and foreclose on it, before we abate it, if we do auction off, it's just a condition of the auction that the new owner has to
That's correct.
comply.
It
Okay.
is now, that's correct, yeah.
Ms. Julianne?
What did I mess up on?
Just to
Laura?
clarify, we don't take it back, a new codes case begins. So they have 90 days to clean it up, or else a new codes case is opened. So we don't go, if we bid out a property and someone buys it with code infractions on it, we say, okay, it's yours for 90 days, get it cleaned up. You're free and clear of the old stuff. You got 90 days to make it clean, but I'm not gonna come back and take the property from you in 90 days. I'm gonna open a new codes case.
Would
in
that
90
be
days.
illegal for us to do that? Because that's not what I thought. I thought that they had 90 days, and if they didn't clean it up within those 90 days, they forfeited the money that they paid, and we got the property back. But that's not what's going on. Is that illegal to do that, Rich?
No, I would say that's not legal to do that.
It's not legal?
What if we didn't convey title?
Okay, hang on, Mr. Ad,
That was a condition.
Well, then what are the people paying for?
okay.
The privilege of.
And I'm sorry, my apologies, Mr. Chairman, I led us on this wild goose chase.
Well, I think this is.
I'll try to do better.
No, I think this is a great discussion, but it's not for this room right now. And I
Yes,
think,
sir.
Thomas, what you could do for us is get with Mr. Toronto and bring us back at a workshop. You know what the comments we have
Yes, sir.
today.
I know
You
what you
hear all of us talking about this. And you know how adamant Commissioner Turner is, and I happen to agree that I'm not taking somebody's property and then I'm gonna let it sit in the same disrepair. That's wrong.
It
So
is.
what you need to do is bring us at a workshop, whatever workshop you can get that on, and come to us and have us a plan of action that we can have a running, how we're gonna make this happen from this point on. Because we really wanna get these cleaned up.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And we don't wanna make the number be so high that we're scaring everybody off out there who might be willing to do something and going, boy, I hope the Board of County Commissioners takes that reduction for me, because I'll be in the hole if we don't want that. We want to go, yeah, we're gonna work with you if you wanna work with us.
All right.
Okay?
Should be all about compliance.
That's right. Okay, good. No lights are on. We're gonna move forward. Mr. Moore, you have the floor, sir, on this case. Case 2016-00300.
I pulled that one, sir. That one's not ready. So
I'm sorry?
that one's not ready for a
That
final
one's
reduction
not ready.
yet.
You're
No, sir.
pulling
Okay.
item A, okay? Sorry, I didn't get the memo, but that's all right. Item B is case number 2003-01136.
Address is
Paul, do you have
one,
a comment before that?
Let him go first, then I'll.
Okay, go right ahead, sir.
address is 149 Davis Lake Road. The property owner's name is Douglas Fournier. Violation was an unsafe home. The original fine amount was $307,553.50. The total cost of enforcement action was $3,195. The property owner has recently purchased the property. He is now compliant and is requesting a fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the reduced fine to be paid within 90 days.
Thank you. I know the applicant, Mr. Douglas Fortner, you'd like to speak? Please come up.
How you doing?
Let me first say,
If you'll state your name and address. for the-
Doug Fournier, 149, I'm sorry, that's the address, 143 Massey Lanes, where I reside in Palaca,
Thank you.
Florida. Let me first say, codes enforcement, this piece of property has been in my family for about over 30 years. My dad first purchased it when I moved to Putnam County. It's what brought me to Putnam County. My brother, when my dad passed away, ended up with the property. And I believe you have a letter that I typed.
We do.
It gives us just a brief summary of what's happened. And codes enforcement has been great with me. They have basically, on this and another case where I've tried to help my brother, we brought that into compliance. I said, look, it's all about compliance. We just want to get this stuff taken care of. And because of my brother's issues that he's had that you read about, has brought us to this. I will touch base on a little bit of what y'all just discussed. I've looked at property and saw fines and said, there's no way I'm taking a chance on this. Right. The only reason I even got involved in this piece of property is because my father purchased this. My daughter would like to have a piece of property to build a house on, so that's why I got involved in it. And there was a fear. There was several years of taxes that had not been paid, as you touched base on. There's the fear that you don't have to reduce this fine. And of course, if you don't, I'm like, I don't have that money. It's hard for me to come up with $3,000, much less the almost $3,000 it cost me to demo the home. And so you touch on a lot of issues of the fears of the public getting involved in these pieces of property because we don't know. And as codes enforcement, when I speak with them and I say, look, if I take ownership of this property, can you give me a clue of what may happen with these fines? And of course, these are your decisions, not his. And so they've communicated with me, all we can do is ask.
We have phone numbers.
Say again?
We have phone numbers.
Right, I get that. But even then, if I call you, you can't make a decision for me. You know what I mean? It has to come before the public decision, and I understand all that. And so I'm here, of course, saying, hey, I'd love a fine of 0, but, it ain't going to happen, right? I know that ain't going to happen. But today's my birthday, so, hey, it could be a birthday present, but whatever.
There you go, yeah.
But
we see your driver's license to make
I can do that,
I'm teasing.
So, yeah, exactly. And let me just touch base on, this was 2003, I think, that this started?
Yeah.
Okay, so this has been, goodness, 18 years. And so that's when my brother had, when his wife passed away. And so communication. So when I took ownership of the property and went over to the house, there's a notice that codes enforcement stuck on the front door. Well, my brother doesn't go to that piece of property. He hasn't paid taxes on it in years. He has just life issues. So the process of how codes enforcement is trying to communicate with the owner of the property, it just ain't happening, because of a phone number change, because he doesn't have the money to even have a phone, or even he lost the home he was living in, so the addresses weren't properly, there. So it's an issue of trying to communicate with these people and say, hey, how can we work this out? And then, of course, his hands are tied because he can't really work it out because it has to come before you. So I understand all that. So I'm only here. You read what I said. I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Other than that, Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rawls has the floor. Mr.
No,
Rawls?
I was just wondering out loud what this would look like adjusted for inflation from 2003 to current value. I mean, that's above $500,000, I'm sure, but I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the fine by an additional $2,120 to a total of $1,075, and that would be removing the administrative monthly fee and give them 90 days to pay that.
Second.
Okay, the motion is for you to pay $1,075 in 90 days, period. Is that a good birthday present?
Happy birthday to me. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a proper motion by Commissioner Rawls, proper second by Commissioner Adamsack. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah,
Mr. Adamsack?
the things you said were kind of enlightening. We had a meeting with realtors last week where inventory is so low in the county, so we definitely need to work on all of these items to get properties out of the government's hand and out there, so realtors can be selling them, so people can be buying them, so people can be building, and I think we're making a lot of steps in that direction. You just witnessed it today in your case.
Yeah, we've been
And,
working on it hard as we can.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge that we appreciate what you're saying. We're hearing it from a lot of different sources, and thank you for those words.
Thank you.
If I could throw one more thing out there.
Well, wait a minute, we got to vote.
Okay, good.
So we got a proper motion, and we got a proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign, the ayes have it. Happy birthday. You have a comment you'd like to make? Come to the microphone.
Okay.
Okay.
So Davis Lake Road, we purchased it years ago, and I don't know if you, Ms. Kerslake was a previous
I
owner.
remember Ms. Kerslake.
Right, so my dad had a bulldozer, and we were bulldozing trees so people could see the lake. It's now Davis Park.
Sure.
And that was a big argument between Ms. Kerslake and Putnam County for years. There is, around that lake, a bunch of tires and trash and debris that's behind some palmettos, and it is just an eyesore. I would be willing to clean up the palmettos and where it's open, where people just can't dump stuff behind things, if there's a way that I don't have to pay for the dumping fees.
Why don't you talk to Nicole Grace at Keep Putnam Beautiful, and she will contact Mr. Suggs and work something out, I'm sure, if they can. But contact her, and maybe that area can be cleaned up. I know that area very well. I know Commissioner Turner knows that area very well. I used to have to walk horses all night long in that area because of colic, sand colic. Remember
Through
those?
snow.
Remember those days, Mr. Turner? So, it's not fun when you leave the Horsemen's Club and go down Davis Lake Road, and it was at night until the horses got sand colic, and then it wasn't fun. So, but we appreciate you, and get with Nicole Grace at Keep Putnam Beautiful, and I think you can get that problem solved.
Okay.
Happy birthday too, by the way,
Thank
and
you,
thank
Larry.
you for
Thank
coming.
you, everyone.
And I would like to say to you, when we have that workshop, if you'll come and give a citizen's opinion of how you saw the interaction today and what could we do not to scare off people when these fines are so large.
Right.
I think that's very important. And you hear 5 people up here all shaking their head going, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be, how would I know when that's
You'll
happening?
see a workshop, you'll see it noticed, but if you email any one of us or Mr. Moore, he can let you know, okay? Mr. Turner, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that when we tackle this, and I'm trying not to go back off on another goose chase on you, but when we do get around to tackling this, we need to understand this is a multiple pronged problem. We're gonna have to look at it from a bunch of different directions. And so adding a way to fix something is not gonna hurt, but I don't think we need to take away any of the things we already do. We just need to tweak them.
I agree. All right, good. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Clerk of the Court, our Honorable Matt Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to bring
you, sir.
in front of the board.
All right, thank you. Appointments, I'll start with my far right. Mr. Adamsack, do you have any appointments you'd like to make?
I have none available to me at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Turner, do you have any appointments? Mr. Pickens?
I have none.
Mr. Rawls?
I have none.
Thank you, and I have none. Moving on, County Administrator, Mr. Suggs.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. No, there are no comments from the county administrator.
Okay, thank you. I know there was no comments from the county administrator today. Okay, thank you. County Attorney, Mr. Commando.
Nothing for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Nothing, okay. Commissioner comments starting to my right. Mr. Adamsack.
I'm just excited about the county in general. There's some bass tournaments coming up there. Again, like I said last meeting, there's a lot more activities available to us every weekend. We're driving past the whole COVID issue, whatever your thoughts are on it. We are moving forward out of it. Very excited for what's happening in the county. I've been looking to purchase a piece of property to allow my daughter to live on when she turns 18, and it's been a very difficult to even find something that's available that's in the requirements that you have, and that's an exciting problem to have. It's a double-edged sword as well. When you're talking about, we got two guys here that do building and things, when they're trying to find properties to build on and people are trying to do projects, but it is an exciting thing for the county that we do have some drive to move in here, for people to expand their footprint here, and even some new businesses opening coming out of COVID. Just really excited for the future in Putnam County and everything that we're doing to drive it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Turner?
I have no further comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rawls?
Part of my wish list when we discussed our priorities was to get a monument protection ordinance in place. I want to see if we can get that put on the agenda sooner than later. I was hoping we'd discuss it before now, but if we can do that.
I would suggest that we do it at a workshop.
Workshop.
Bring
Yep.
your ordinance put
Mr.
together.
Commando already has,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll bring it to a workshop and let's have
Can
that
you get that put
discussion.
on for a workshop?
Yep,
Okay.
put it on the next workshop if it's
good.
already ready to go.
Okay.
What else do you have?
So the fine citizens in the BOCC area would, I spoke to Mr. Troxel. Joel Dans will reach out to DOT about the intersection of Palmetto Bluff and 17. I guess they requested a traffic light. DOT's not gonna do that, but if we could maybe see if we could encourage DOT to do something. There's the potential of putting some lighting out there as well as maybe a flashing light. I guess their concern is if they put a stoplight, people are gonna use the other intersections that are not at Palmetto Bluff, right off of Palmetto Bluff, and that creates a more dangerous situation. So they were understanding about that, but just trying to get something out there because traffic is starting to pick up, flowing into Putnam County.
So maybe the board could request DOT to look at that intersection and see what safety.
They've already looked at it. They're just kind of dragging their feet, but if we could, that's going to put some pep on their step. And
It took 4 years to get them to do a project that they absolutely promised to do. So, I mean, DOT doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So by consensus, it would be okay for the chairman to write a letter to DOT encouraging them to look at that.
That'd be great.
And to move that study a little bit faster ahead.
Yep.
Good, we'll take care of that.
Animal shelter update. I sat down with Danita Cole last week, and she's starting to draw up some details. She's taken some of the load off of us, and we actually got through what I was concerned about was that guillotine door. She knocked it out of the ballpark. Came up with a really inexpensive solution. Discovered that there's something called a Kennel Drain 600 system that you can buy. That's these preformed plastic slot drains that have the cover. One of the concerns from the building official was the dogs can't step in the holes, and these are actually designed for kennels and have fur traps, which I was not aware of, but they have those as well.
Learning a lot, aren't you?
Yep. So, but when that's the hard part when you're getting the fine details, and that's
right.
But she's doing a great job of that. So, Mike, if you could keep her working, and Mike, let her. Okay. And then I don't know what happened last Thursday. My email went down right before that. We had our regional council meeting for the finance committee, and then I went to log on to the second portion, and I couldn't log into my email. Something happened with the internet. So Tolles Road, I went out there this morning to. It looks like they're finished up with that project. They're laying sod and look like they're doing a lot of cleanup. But I just want to know what's going to happen to all the pipe because they didn't use all that concrete pipe that's sitting out there. We're gonna.
I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. We've talked with Mr. Troxel, and the pipe that's not being used there, we're looking at the ability to relocate it to the Public Works facility and use on future projects.
Okay, that's cool. The dumpster back here, it's not on your daily commute, I'm sure, but it is on mine. Have y'all seen that thing? Somebody, it's not ours?
We'll look into it and see if there's something that
There's
we
a
need to do
dumpster
with our
full of
business.
tires and garbage, and who owns that dumpster?
I believe it's a combination of those tenants down there, like the Chinese restaurant.
Well, somebody used it to clean their house out, or their yard up, it looks like.
They use the one out front too, a lot of times as well, so.
Is there a solution for that, or?
Well, there is, as, we can use, code enforcement because it's an illegal dumping activity.
Yeah.
We can certainly do that, but we just haven't chosen to do that because it's on public property. We just hadn't gone that route, but we'll look at both of them, see if we need to address
There
it.
must have been a half dozen tires in it, and they're stacked on top of everything. I know the city's not gonna take it, and then it becomes a health issue over time, but just wanted to mention that. And then, if you guys haven't seen the news lately, corn prices are up. And I only bring this up to let you know that our economy is in a very fragile state right now. And, the corn is not gonna affect you at your next barbecue. It's gonna affect you when you pull up to the gas pump and buy that ethanol-laden gas. God forbid you buy non-ethanol gas, but, this is really gonna impact us a lot. They said it's up 50%. For some reason, the Chinese are just buying mass quantities of corn. But I'm personally concerned about the direction the country's heading, and I don't know what we can do to mitigate some of these pains, but, you know, we need to try to stay ahead of this as much as possible, at least be aware of it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Harvey. We held another town hall meeting in Crescent City at the Women's Club, and I just want to thank Paula Nichols and all the members of the Women's Club for allowing us to use that facility. It was Monday, May 3rd at 6, and it lasted about an hour and a half. Commissioner Adamczak and Commissioner Rawls were able to attend. Unfortunately, Chairman Harvey and Commissioner Turner and Administrator Suggs were not able to attend. We had about 35 people and good interaction between the citizens and the commissioners, so we took care of that. And then just want to mention, like Paul said, the bass tournament, the Wolfsman Bass Tournament this weekend. And one of the esteemed parking crew is back there, Mr. Ed Killebrew. I want to thank you for all your efforts, and I will be there, Ed. I doubt I'll be there at 3:30 in the morning, but probably around 4. So
He kind of called you out yesterday, didn't he? I felt like that.
in his very tactful way, he did, yes. But anyway, I think it's the largest bass tournament in the state, and so it raises a lot of money. So to bring a lot of people to town. And that's all I got.
Thank you. I got a few things. I want to say thank you to the sheriff over there. Showed up at my house at 8:30 the other night, helped me load up the cookers, and came back at 3:30 in the morning. Said he couldn't sleep, but I doubt that. But he came and helped me take them off and repack the cookers up for the American
I
Legion.
could understand him helping you take them off where he could nibble on them, but that's a good deal when he helps you put them on.
I know, but the problem is, and I told him now I can see that he can actually do the work on that. So he has doomed himself to me at this point. But Sheriff, I do appreciate we were raising money for the American Legion roof, and a great job was done. Commissioners, I'm going to ask you to pass these down. Farm Share has contacted me, and just want to make sure that y'all are okay with the fact of Saturday, June 19th, starting at 7:30 in the morning. This will be the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners, our administration, our constitutional officers, Congresswoman, Senator, and Representative, and the Highway Patrol to have a drive-through farm share program like we did out front. If that's okay, Commissioner Rawls, you brought the forklifts the last time?
I'll consider whether or not I will participate in this. You know, right now, I'm not really happy with our state representative or
But
senator, so
it's going to help about 600
I'll-
families. so.
I won't make any promises, I'll put it that way.
Well, okay, so do we need to find forklifts?
I'll get with you later.
Okay, thank you.
Now's not a good time.
But Commissioners, is this okay to move
Yes.
forward?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we'll move forward, and Sarah, will you get this out to everybody? And we'll plan on that day on June 19th, and we'd love to have you here. This is going to be basically done by the Board of County Commissioners. I have no further comments, so I'll open up the floor to public comment on miscellaneous items.
If I could say one more thing. The second Monday of next month, Boswick Community Association will be having a town hall meeting there. If you guys can, at 6 p.m.
Second Monday of...
Second Monday. And they asked about serving dinner, but we decided on sweets and coffee.
That's June.
That's the 14th?
Yeah, June, correct. And
14th, isn't that our county commission day?
No, it's a Monday.
Okay, it's a Monday. That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Adamczak. Okay, Mr. Adamczak, you had a question?
No, I just wanted to say one more thing. When Mr. Pickens was talking about it, I want to thank Joe Wells, too, for coming out. He saved us on some of the
I got it.
questions. that we got in that town hall, and he had some good answers.
yeah.
So it was great that Joe Wells was at that town hall as well. So I just want to appreciate it to the sheriff's department that Joe was there as well. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, I've made a terrible mistake, not a terrible mistake. I had one more thing I needed to ask you. This coming Thursday, I'm going in for surgery on my neck to relieve this pain down my arm, and they're going to take out some of the ruptured disc. It's going to impel me not to be able to be at the May 18th meeting. My question to you is, if you don't mind, could we move the May 18th meeting to Monday, the 24th?
Could we just go ahead and pass that day, anything that you don't like?
No. No.
24th is fine, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is that okay with everybody else?
The only thing I asked, and I have a prior engagement from 11:30 to 1, so if you just have lunch be 11:30 to 1, I'm fine with the
We
rest
can
of the
do
day.
that. We can,
May the 24th, what time?
at 9 o'clock. And Commissioner Adamczak, if you'll make sure, administration, will you note that we're going to take a break from 11:30 to 1:30?
1 is
1, and that'll be our lunch break at that day, okay? So thank you all very much for,
The special budget?
yes, that's where you're going to be meeting with division heads and department heads, and you get to ask the questions and see what they're doing. So thank you very much, and Mr. Suggs, I
Chairman.
appreciate you when you stood up running this way. I knew that I had forgotten that. Yes, Mr. Turner?
Are y'all gonna be ready with a list of changes requested between now and then? Y'all been meeting for the last couple of weeks with your department heads. I'd like to have a list of changes this year instead of doing it like previous years. I'd like to know what requests are different than last year. In other words, what the current budget is, the items we've currently budgeted this year versus what you're planning on budgeting for next year that would be in addition to that.
Yes, sir. We had our second meeting yesterday, all-day meeting with the executive directors, and so we have some final tinkers, changes that need to be finalized, and then I can send out to everyone capital requests, personnel requests, changes in operations from this year to next year.
Yeah, whenever that's available, I'd like to have it if possible.
Sure.
And I'd like to discuss before we quit, Mr. Chairman, today, if we're gonna add any positions, I think they need to be added just like the ones we just added. In other words, identify a need, talk about that position and why that position should be added or whatever. But we've done it twice. Once for the building department, we added 2 positions, and we did it because absolute dire need. And I'm not gonna go into all of them, but there was a need. We took the same position, but made it a higher authority position at the landfill. We did it because it was necessary to make the thing run like it should. So if we're gonna start talking about adding positions or doing things in other departments or whatever, and because it was kind of hinted to me, we've set the preference, that's BS. We ain't set no preference on adding a bunch of people to the county. We haven't set that preference. We identified a certain need and we took care of that need. So I would like to make sure that we address any of those kind of issues absolutely separately.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Okay, ending that, is there any public comment on miscellaneous items? Does the public want to speak on anything? Mr. Killebrew? Please come up and state your name and address for the record. You understand you have 3 minutes to speak?
And you have to lay $1 on the counter there.
$1 on.
I'm not even going to.
Don't.
Ed Killebrew,
Good
146
morning,
Barton
sir.
Estates
Good
Circle.
morning, Mr. Killebrew.
I just want to say, with going back to your farm share thing.
Yes, sir.
If you need help with a tow motor, if you can arrange transportation, Epic Cure would be fine with bringing our tow motor over, pallet jacks, whatever, to help with that drive,
Good.
okay?
We can arrange that. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much, Mr. Killebrew. And is there any other people that would like to speak in the audience on public comment on miscellaneous items? Seeing none, this meeting will be adjourned. Thank you. We'll be back at 5:05 for our public hearing.